Welcome back to another Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast brought to you by our title sponsor, the Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. Whether it's tractors, mowers, utility vehicles, construction, or farm equipment, Kubota's got you covered. Now with 9 locations across the state of South Dakota, there's always a dealer nearby. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Jackrabbit podcasts are also sponsored by Culver's of Brookings in Watertown, the home of the Butterburger, Jackrabbit Central, the best place to get your Jack's gear, and the best sports bar in South Dakota, Cubby Sports Bar and Grill. Without further ado, here is the A-Team.
Holy smokes, folks. We are back again. Chad, Matt, and we're joined by our hero, Terry Vanderbeck. And so I don't know how to feel about this. They say never meet your heroes. And Terry and I actually met now a couple weeks ago at a game. Terry, how the heck you doing?
Hopefully I'm a former hero. No, I'm great. I'm great. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. I appreciate the offer. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys. This is really cool. I got to say, it's really fun to see the growth in coverage around the school, the athletic department, the football program, in that, you fans have taken it on to do that. That's a really fun and positive thing. So congrats to you guys and greatly appreciate you having me here.
Awesome.
Well, we kind of have you to thank too, right? I mean, because you started this ball rolling for us, doing such an excellent job with all the live chats and so forth. Which I really actually missed the live chats. That's sad.
I won't take credit. That's probably at the core. Al Gore for inventing the internet deserves credit, but for having a technological platform where you can exchange ideas in real time. But I had so much fun. And again, even I'm sure we'll get into it, but getting to go to the game a couple weeks ago, get to see everyone, to have my son with me, and to bring some friends who'd never been to a home game like that before. So anyways, to get to see all of that grow and develop, and to know that the relationships we built. Again, my first stop being there is to your tailgating tent, because I knew I'd be welcome. I knew I'd be glad to see you guys. I knew it'd be fun. My guests would be excited and be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And so really, it's a pleasure, and can't say enough good things about all the folks like you guys who've stayed in touch over the years.
Hey, well, cool.
Well, we always got a beer for you. You know that.
It wasn't just.
It was
breakfast sliders. I hear on the list, man. It was fun. I love the indoor vibe with the heater, and the kids were crushing donuts, and that's the way it should be. Yeah.
Hey, that's good. That's good. Well, first things first, then we do have to thank our title sponsor, Kubota Dealers of South Dakota, John Colley and his crew, 9 locations all over the state, and really whatever your needs are for tractors, side-by-side, skid steers, lawnmowers, whatever it may be, all the different attachments and implements, they can hook you up. So get a hold of one of those 9 locations in South Dakota, and they'll connect you. So thanks, John, for your support. So I heard we're going back to Frisco. They played that fiddle song, right, in the stands, and we're going. That was one of the coolest games that I have been to in person, not because it was a good game, but because the atmosphere was absolutely electric in that stadium. I walked in and got in there a little bit early, was down on the sidelines, and something just felt different. I say when I'm down there, you can feel like the adrenaline from the players, their excitement. There was just something a little extra. And Tanner Castora actually tweeted it out right before the game, saying the same thing, hey, something's different tonight. And he upped his score prediction by a dozen points, and he was still way short. So, man, what a cool night. What a cool night. And,
Terry, did you get
I was
going to ask if you had a chance to watch the game or.
Yeah. So I couldn't make it in person, and trust me, I wanted to. I had my wife and daughter were out of town, and my son had early basketball games Saturday morning, but it was so nice out, and I was like, gosh, I know I shouldn't go. The responsible thing is to watch on television, but man, I want to be there. So anyways, I did watch on TV, so I can provide that perspective for you guys, since I know you were both there in person. I mean, for crying out loud, the broadcast started with Mr. Myros here front and center. That was a treat. That's where I knew things were going to go well for SDSU. But I'll say I think it translated to TV, and it doesn't always. But I felt like, again, comparing the Villanova game to this game, the crowd, I thought to the naked eye, and it proved that way in the numbers, was even larger. And that glow that comes off the main side at night is so cool, and you add the cold to it. Anyway, so yeah, you could tell that the people there were into it. It was a party from the get-go. Yep. And it's not often you get to like celebrate throughout the game, right? I mean, I was kind of hinting at some of the reporters, and this data is harder to drag up than I maybe claimed it to be. But I had in my mind, all I could think was that had to be a record for largest semifinal margin of victory in history of that tournament, and it had to be up there with the most points scored. So to do both is just absolutely incredible. 2 shutouts in 3 games, on and on and on. So I was also thinking to myself, not that long ago, like I was at the JMU game, the semifinal that went horribly the wrong way, and what was it, the turnovers and things like that. Not that many years ago, getting to the semifinal was a huge accomplishment, and a 1-point win. Maybe everything had to go right. And to think that in that short amount of time, you're capable of taking a team that's a fine football team. I mean, Albany earned their way there. The numbers, I know they're in a different league, but the numbers are the numbers. And to do that to anybody at that stage of the tournament is absolutely remarkable. And especially, again, in like a relatively short period of time, from where it felt like, if you can just get there, you can just get there. And now it's like just blowing doors off good teams.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. You're absolutely right, Terry. Because those are good players, good receivers, good quarterback. That defensive line, think back to, probably before Jason Eck, and even in his early years, that defensive line would have just ate us alive. Those were good players. I mean, one of the highlights for me, the game was full of highlights, but finally Tucker Large, kind of having a breakthrough. He's been stifled a little bit lately and frustrated, but man, that punt return was one of the coolest things.
And those of us on the west side of Sioux Falls are loving that. To see a Roosevelt kid and obviously Mason in there, and later in the game, the Kusler boys. But, Tucker, we've known him for a while. His mom and my wife have taught together over the years. And so he's one of those kids you kind of knew about at a young age. You heard he was a leader, and you heard he was a pretty good little athlete. He was kind of scrappy, but the leap he has taken this year, no one, the biggest Tucker Large supporters wouldn't have been able to go, oh yeah, just wait. And so for him to be an absolute playmaker in 2 of the 3 phases of the game, that's just a rare trait. And again, for it to come from a former walk-on from Sioux Falls, with other, high school teammates on the team is really fun, and just adds to kind of all the good vibes that are going on with this program.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to add other than, we drove down the field the first drive, right? Like, just drove down, and it did not seem all that challenging for our guys. And I'm not trying to disrespect the other team. I looked at Brendan and I said, oh my gosh, if this keeps up, it's going to be a long night for the mother boys. And then we got our second score. And I was like, well, we got that turnover. Tucker Large picked the ball off. And then we end up with another score. And then the run back happened. I lost my voice on that play for sure. I've been waiting all year for that to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Finally happened. And I was just so excited about it. And at that point, that was it. They should have just thrown in the white towel at that point, because I saw people calling it, what were they calling it? Albany Pine Bluff online. I was
Yeah,
like,
I saw that.
guys,
That was a bad
don't do
one.
that.
Ooh.
Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. And let's not be too cocky, fans.
Yeah.
Seriously, that doesn't bode well for future opponents. And
Nope.
it's nice to have Albany come to town. Their fans were excellent.
Yep.
We talked to quite a few of them, and they were nice, and they were glad to be there. I mean, that's just like when Mercer came to town. That was somewhere they hadn't been before. So we got to keep that in mind, because it wasn't too long ago we were in that position, like you said, with JMU.
Yep.
And
it was, I thought it was cool too, guys, to see, you mentioned Mercer. I thought both their coach, the way you saw his comments after the game, the way he framed it to his guys was not like, you guys are garbage, you guys aren't any good. It was like, this is what we need to see. This is where we need to be. We're a long ways off, but we're on a football team or a field of a team that caliber. And now we know what the mark is. And I thought for the Albany coach to play that card as well. And what other card did you have to play, right? I mean, they got absolutely throttled, as people expected. But, again, you look back, and I had this conversation with a lot of friends in my life who are USD fans before the NDSU game. And I kept calling that game a big boy game. And you don't know what that big boy game is until you play one. And it's really hard to win your first one, right? And that's where you're knocking on that door. And it's quarterfinals or semifinals probably, where it's like in the NBA, winning that extra series that you've never won before. And it's really, really hard to do. And it's really even hard to get a sense for how physical and desperate and other level that game is until you get there. And it's really hard to be ready for the first one. And so I think that was kind of what happened to Albany. And again, we've seen that, right? The Jacks had been there. Every year they took one more step. They weren't ready all the way. They weren't ready all the way until they finally broke through. And even then, tough loss in Frisco, right? You didn't win that the first time. And so it's been interesting to see other teams go through that. We'll see. Now, the staying power is the thing, right? That's what separated the NDSUs and the SDSUs year after year. They're ready for that big boy game. Some of these other teams, they get there and they fall off. They ebb and flow. And it'll be interesting to see if a Mercer, if an Albany, if an Idaho, are they kind of a one and done or kind of a 2-year thing, or are they able to take that next step and keep pushing forward the way that this program has?
Yeah. Hey, Chad, we pull up that comment from Brock Miracle again?
Yep. Brock,
this is
to have you.
Yeah, this is interesting. So Brock says, picked SDSU as my FCS school a couple years ago. To see the rise to this level is very nice. Brock, what made you pick SDSU? I'm very interested in that. So, and where are you from? That's cool. A couple individuals I want to point out. That interception by Dyshawn Gales, the Willie Mays interception, that was incredible. I always question a little bit Dyshawn's top end speed. He had plenty of speed on that. That was great. Dallas Beanham stepping in, making that interception. I'm nervous. Dallas Clarkson, our partner usually here. I'm nervous, Dallas, about your dad's interception record. Dallas Beanham's coming for it next year. He's coming for it. I'm nervous, man. Charlie, it was nice to meet you at tailgating in case you catch this. So the linebackers, Adam Bach is back, baby. He looks good. He was flying all over the field. And just our trio of linebackers and how well they complement each other, Isaiah Stallbird, Jason Freeman, and Adam Bach. I mean, those three are all a little bit different, but man, they look good. They just all three of them on the field. And the sad part is, over the last 2 years, all three of them probably haven't been on the field together as much as we'd like, just due to injuries and other things. But man, when they are all hitting like that, they are fun to watch. So that's my observations on the defense. Quentin Hicks too. Quentin Hicks has found the fountain of youth, and he's kind of getting back to being that Quentin Hicks that we saw his freshman year, just really explosive off the edge. And man, he's playing just with a lot of power right now, power and force that we have seen him play. But he looks good. He looks really good, and I'm happy for him that he's ending his career on such a high note.
I like Garrett Meyer's comment here. We've talked about it a few times, but this may be the best team that we ever get to see again, potentially. I mean, who knows, right? We've continued to grow and continue to get better, but with the NIL and the things that have changed in the college landscape, And maybe you'd like to touch on that a little bit, Terry. Things have changed a lot in the last 3 years in college sports.
Yeah, they have, and I know. I think Jimmy got questions about that a little bit in the last couple of weeks from some of the interviews I saw, where people are sort of trying to have him sum up his appreciation for this group of seniors and how they stuck together, decided to come back for extra years, even if they were, in the case of like a Garrett Greenfield and Mason McCormick, NFL prospects, which is rare. I think again he spoke about the culture. He spoke about the idea, though, of identifying undervalued potential and developing that undervalued talent. And I suspect, and again, it's going to be really interesting, right? We see the news today. Kid flips his commitment, right? One team switches coaches, another team in the championship game. Like all the people could speculate on the behind the scenes stuff on that forever. But I remember even like when I was covering the team and they started getting facilities, Luke Meadows came through, and one of you guys remember Luke Meadows, offensive line,
of course,
one of Stig's core guys, right?
Right.
For a period of time, and it still is. Meadows, Bubak, like those guys are still falling online. They're at the games, like they're a part of this in a really cool way. And one of the things that Luke said to me was he wants, and the program wants to make sure that essentially that the money doesn't change them, that they still recruit the same kid, so to speak, that they still value the same things, that they still conduct themselves the same way. And I do think that some of that culture, now nothing is, NIL proof or transfer portal proof or anything like that. But I do think that is a part of the reason why they haven't been hit as hard as some other programs. And I think it's one of the reasons why they can have hope that if they continue to do things the way that they believe to be right, that you won't be, again, transfer proof, but you're going to minimize that, because kids aren't going to transfer if they feel like you're the only one that believes in them, right? I mean, that makes it that's a different thing. And so I'll be very curious again, now you've got $100 million of facilities. Now you've got a handful of NFL guys seemingly on the roster at all times. Now the bar keeps moving ahead, and yet they've been largely bulletproof from some of those sort of modern issues that a lot of programs face. So again, does that continue forever? Who knows? But I do think there's a little bit of something to it, more than just luck, or more than just, our kids are winning and they're happy. Lots of teams win and are happy and still have a lot of transfers. So it's a fascinating storyline moving forward, though.
Yeah, I think back to what Mason McCormick, said to Tucker Kraft last year when Tucker was considering, taking one of the offers and going, and basically said something to the effect of, Tucker, why would you go elsewhere? Like, these folks believed in us, they developed us, and now we're not going to bail on them. Like when they've, just when we've reached our peak or whatever, however it went. But it was that thought of loyalty, that thought of, being the first person to believe in them as an athlete. So that's going to be interesting to see.
And the other part, and I want to call this out specifically because I find it really interesting. If you watch that post-game locker room clip, okay, and they've been doing it for a while. It wasn't the first time, but you tell me you don't want to be in that room, and that is the most fun you can have, I think, as a college football player, maybe a human being, to be in a room with all the people you love that you go to work with every day. You're succeeding at an unprecedented level, and for about a minute, you're just absolutely cutting loose with the fellas. And so, again, you see that on social media, and you're like, I want to be a part of that. And if I want to be a part of that, maybe I'm more apt to buy into the things that people tell me makes me a part of that. So again, nothing's perfect. Everything's new. Jimmy's different from Stig, all those kind of things, right? But it's really interesting. And again, everyone needs to keep, I guess, saying their prayers and eating their vitamins to see if those trends continue.
And that feeling you were talking about, being a part of that, I think more people than ever got the taste of that at our last game on Friday.
Yep.
Like that feeling was in the air when you walked into the stadium. There was a little bit of it. You could feel the spidey sense, the tingle of that. And, and then the place went nuts on the punt return. Obviously that was the thing. And then the scoop and score. Oh my gosh, it just gets better. How could it possibly continue? And, it did. Brock did respond to you here, Matt. He says he's from Ohio and a Bobcats fan. Also, he's fell in love with Tucker Kraft and Jackson Yankee and SD's a nice state. We think so. We're fans.
Yeah.
Certainly nicer than that one up north. It's colder, or
some of us were born there.
The one just to the east of us,
Awesome. Hey, I want to shout out. We had 160 folks viewing right now. So
thanks for being on,
thanks for being on with us, guys. Appreciate it. So that's really cool. Offensively, let's flip over. Zach Hines had a day, right? That last catch was phenomenal. It was in the rants and raves, but David Bordwick captured the photo perfectly. Good job, David. That was awesome. Playoff Zay. I know Jimmy doesn't believe in Playoff Zay, but Playoff Zay is a real thing.
It is a real thing, Jimmy. You don't have to play in it. That's the same coach that came up to us at the banquet, the scholarship banquet, if I'm not right, and said, "You guys write whatever you want to motivate my players because I'll use it."
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So we do. Don't think we don't.
Yeah.
We're not foolish.
Yeah. So Playoff Zay, just another incredible performance. I'm glad we were able to put him away a little bit early. Not as early as some of you would like by some of my messages and stuff. Mark, uber efficient, and then Jaden Yankee, right? What a game for him. Griff Wilde, GF Dub for Dallas. Got to see him, that speed. Man, that kid's elite. I know everyone, nationally is pretty worried about losing the Yankees for us next year. I really like what we have coming back at the wide receiver position. We'll talk about depth later, but man, Griff Wilde is going to be exciting. And then, goodness, 12 is just going to be, he looks great too. He's been a great receiver this year. Marcus Preston, a whole lot of depth, younger guys. Chad, any comments on the offensive side of the ball that I may have missed? Missed a big one. You're going to hit it, I bet.
Mason McCormick played like an absolute beast. So did the rest of the line. They were having their way with them and making them into their little brother. We'll say that's as PC as I'm going to be with that one. They had something to prove after. We maybe started a little bit of a narrative on our podcast that they didn't play too well, or your rants and raves. We'll give you the credit, Matt. Whatever, but we maybe helped start that narrative a little bit. The rest of the media ran with it, and it maybe hit home. And look what we can do when they play at their absolute best.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you could kind of see it in the Albany boys. They weren't used to being pushed around that much. Like
they
that defensive line.
Shell-shocked.
They look shell-shocked, and
what
body
just
language
happened?
is bad. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Right away, their body language was bad. I said that before. I think before the punt return, where Brendan and I were talking about that, and were you over there? Maybe you were over there, and yeah, you were still over there, and it was like, holy cow, these guys are already mentally defeated. This is not going to be well.
Yeah. I keep going back to the one stat that I drew out when I was doing my opponent preview of them, and I just thought it was so interesting. Like 39 of their 50 sacks came at home. Like that's just an insane number. And so I knew when they just had one sack against Idaho last week, they had a number of pressures, but I knew it wasn't the same defense that they have at Albany. And I wonder what that is, because they don't draw super well. So I'm wondering if, there's not that loud crowd. I don't know. I don't know why there would be that big of a discrepancy between home and away sacks. So, yeah.
A little bit of credit to the crowd. We got a couple of plays in that wasn't quite what NDSU put up with. The NDSU definitely got affected by the crowd in that other game. We can talk about that later, but crowd got at least one false start, and I think there was at least one delay a game just because they weren't used to it.
Yep.
Yeah, offense, that was great, man. Special teams.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah, I would say too. One note from me on that. I think you guys touched on Mark, and I think he was really efficient, and he was because he always is. The other thing though is that his decision making is just so good, and where you saw that in this game was and they kept on TV calling him the cowboy quarterback, making bad decisions, right? And again, they said they were going to live with that. That's who he is. That's why he's good. That's his personality. And again,
Brett Favre.
the SDSU staff was very complimentary of him all week. But again, the Cowboys are going to lead the league in picks sometimes, and the discipline, the speed that SDSU has on defense made him pay for that. And again, on the flip side, Mark just doesn't put himself in those situations. And sometimes it takes seeing somebody else fail to realize how good the other person really is. And I think that was another case where you can be blown away by and again, he's a good quarterback. And I like the tattoos. He's got the leg sleeve. Like, he's got a swagger to him. Great. All good for him. And yet Mark just continually just absolutely gets the job done over and over and over again. And so sometimes you have to look at the other side to really realize what you have, right?
Yep.
He's so underrated because he just doesn't have all the, sorry about that. Yeah. He doesn't get all the accolades that he really deserves. And he's not, I don't know, showy. I don't know what it is. He's just amazing in all phases and does it underassumingly. I don't know how, but he does. And for that way, I mean, he's not overly cocky. I think the cockiest thing he ever did was his flow. What, his second year, he had that look going with his hair.
Oh, he did it. Yeah.
And he did that one Twitter or whatever on that. I loved it, but anyway.
Yeah. Did you see this, Chad, from Corey Caraway?
Yeah, I did.
Gus said that Albany wearing the cowboy hats really got them pissed off. I didn't see Albany wearing cowboy hats. Where was that?
I didn't see it either.
Huh. Interesting. All right, let's do game balls, and we have a lot to talk about for Frisco here. And people want to just talk to Terry too. So
yeah, we'll get to that.
We're going to merge those two topics.
A comment.
I need your advice. When we get there, I need some advice. I think it'll be a good segment for you guys on the fly.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. I like it.
Game Balls is sponsored by Culver's of Brookings and Watertown. Absolutely love the butter burgers. Love the mixers. I know Brendan and Ariel stopped there, I think twice. Once before the game and once before they went home.
Once after, yeah.
So that's good.
What's Terry's go-to at Culver's?
Yeah.
Terry, I like to get. Honestly, I keep it simple at Culver's because, like, again, whether it's a double butter burger, but it's a variation of a pretty standard butter burger, and then you of course absolutely have to have the custard, right? Whether you're a flavor of the day guy or a standard guy, but it's.
Are you a root beer man, or do you do something else?
That's a good question. No, I'll mess with their root bear once in a while.
Their root beer, there we go. Solid.
Yeah, I'm not trying. I try and keep my soda intake low, but I'll mess with some Culver's root beer.
This exactly right. Terry's food takes were always the best. Yeah, so
they were. Yeah, so later we'll have him comment on what his favorite meal is at Cubby's. It's probably the J.I. Italian nachos.
Yeah, they were good. J.I. Italian nachos. We can't call them that. That's
J.I. Italian. I can call them that. I have called it that.
All right. So my offensive game ball went to the 605 Hogs, and I know you say that's cheating, Chad, but it was. So who do you have?
Dude, 87.
All right, Zach Hines.
Hines finally got his number called.
Yep.
And boy, did he respond. He had a couple of them. So when you got Tuds, man, that big man, and you know what? I'm looking at the tape from that other game. I'm thinking 87 is going to eat.
You think so?
We get the ball to him. He's going to eat.
There we go. Terry, who would you give a game ball to for offense?
I guess I'll go with Yankee because again, credit to the broadcast. He had 152 receiving yards at half, and that was already an SDSU playoff receiving record. Yep. And again, if you dial that one back, they've had some pretty darn good receivers over the years. So to again, I know it ended up being a massive blowout, but he didn't play the whole game by any means. So to do that in a half, I thought was really impressive. And again, not easy balls, right? He he was in traffic, he's falling down, getting interfered with, refs just swallowing flags because he's catching it anyways. I thought that was kind of comical.
Did you hear the comment on the call, what he said about that? He's like, oh yeah, that ref, he was waiting to make that comment the whole for years. He's like, yeah, he was gonna call a PI there, but he kept it in his pants. My goodness.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't help it.
It's all right. They said it on TV. It's fine.
Yeah, they did.
Defensively, I went with Jason Freeman. Talked about him already.
Gosh, how could you not? Unless you pick Quentin Hicks, who had 2 sacks. Apparently, they're calling it 1.5. I don't know what that means for Jim Poppin. That's his call. You've probably heard about our Alex's Lemonade Stand push, Terry, but Jim Poppin said that he'd donate $11 for every 11 touchdown, which means he probably has one due for number 11, who Matt chose, for getting a scoop and score, but and then $48 for every sack by Quentin Hicks. So Alex's Lemonade Stand, we've been pushing that pretty hard. They're helping fight against childhood cancer. So we raised, what was it, $436, which we split evenly at our tailgate. We split evenly with Mark and Quentin Hicks.
What we're going for now, Terry, is we're trying to get all 3 of the SDSU guys in first, second, and third. So
yeah,
that's
very nice.
It's a competition amongst a bunch of the FCS guys. Efton Chisholm's in there. Who else is there? There's Aiden Bauman's in there for USD.
Sure.
So
very cool.
All right, special teams then, or Terry, defensively, who would you give a game ball to?
And because I want to spread the love and not double up, and you guys might have said the ones I had mine. I was also I think, again, quietly, I think Bach, again, not because he had the best game of the season or whatever. He just looked faster, he looked healthier, and there were a couple plays where he shot through that line, and I was like, oh boy. It's and it made me appreciate and go back and think, gosh, they've been doing this kind of without him, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, and again, that position is so important historically to this defense. And again, no discredit to the other guys, but you look back at the year by year tackle leaders, it's almost always a guy in that linebacker spot, right? And sort of be kind of missing one of your all-timers for big chunks of time, sort of, just because he's been limited by injury, it is wild. Because I do think on this sort of, if I can use this phrase, and I mean this with total respect, I think they've gotten to the point where they probably feel like the no-name defense, because again, nobody wins awards, but yet they are the best defense in the country. I think he would have been, coming to the season, the closest thing to a name. Sort of for him to be rounding in form right now is pretty filthy.
Yep. Jim Poppin asks, or someone asked, how many Dustin Helton asked, how many pictures with the Matt head photo? We took 99 photos at tailgating, but Jim Poppin didn't post his yet, but that's okay. I'm still going to round up to 100. I'll donate $100 to the Alex's Lemonade Stand for that. So Ariel was determined to get a picture with literally everyone that walked by our tent. So there's a lot of photos on Twitter of me and my fat head. So all right, and the special teams were Tucker Large is unanimous, right?
Right. Yeah. How can it not be Tucker? I mean, other than obviously Hunter Dustman is so good at what he does, and he does it so regularly that we just expect it. Now, I do have one little thing. So, Hunter, please listen. Do not kick the ball to Bergen at all, ever. Kick it out of the end zone. I won't even get mad with the penalty. Don't kick it to that guy. Thank you. Yeah. PSA.
Related note, this is armchair quarterback stuff here, but to your point, how about if you guys cover this other weeks, cut me off short. But I think one of the things I've been most impressed with by this season is the way that the coaching staff has not relied on talent. The adjustments and the strategy and you know what I mean? Because again, historically, you're going to look at a team that's the best team in the country, even if they're Alabama, even if they're Georgia. There's going to be a week or two where they're just kind of not checked in, and they're kind of getting by the skin of their teeth. And there's some calls you're like, what are they doing? I mean, again, it's just not a thing. They're making an elite team better with the way they motivate, the way that they handle adjustments. And that's pretty remarkable for a young staff.
Mm-hmm.
So to your note about don't punt at Bergen, I don't even think you have to worry about it, Chad, because they're going to talk about that this week.
Yeah.
That detail will not be lost.
No, he has won 2 games in a row for them. I don't think that's a detail that goes missed, but NDSU seemed to just think they were better than that,
And they still took the chance and risked it at the end by kicking to him. That was
That's
bonkers.
what I'm saying.
Like, I couldn't believe that. Like,
they did cover it well.
They covered it. Yeah. Just all right. So let's talk about that. That's a good transition. So we're going to talk. We only have one other game to talk about this week. And this segment's going to be sponsored by Cubby's Sports Bar and Grill. Cubby's, we're not even going to talk about the food. The food's great. The atmosphere is great. Absolutely love it. But these guys have some kick-ass t-shirts ready for Frisco this year. It's Frisco is on the front, Cubby's logo, state of Texas, I think. And then on the back, it says, "Scared money don't make money." And it looks great. So good job, Gus. Good job, Cubby's crew. Those shirts are sweet. Stop into Cubby's and get them ordered, picked up, whatever it is, and wear them down in Frisco. Thank you, Cubby's, for your support. So, Terry, sidebar though, what is your favorite food at Cubby's?
Favorite food at Cubby's? I think it is this may be a hot take, so I'm not going to apologize for it, but I'm just warning you. I'm a buffalo chicken wrap guy.
Heck yeah.
With some waffle fries or whatever. Like I'm keep it simple but effective, right? A little spice, little veggies, health. It's practically health food. That's how I see that. When lettuce is involved, it turns into a health food.
It's a salad automatically. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. How does one acquire one? Thank you, Kimberly. You can just go to Cubby's. And maybe if you have someone in Brookings, they can go to Cubby's, grab one for you, and either bring it with their Frisco or mail it. So, yeah, one of the two. All right. So this other game, NDSU Montana. This was wild. What a wild game. Obviously, the big thing is the crowd in Wagrace Stadium. 9 full starts or whatever it was against NDSU. You just don't see the Bison do that. And then obviously the weird 2-point call. Like everyone was talking about the 2-point call at the end there. NDSU had just been driving it down Montana's throat. And then they run a trick play, almost the same trick play that Montana ran, but they scored on. So initial thought, what was your thoughts on the game, Terry? That one?
So I was watching. I missed most of I was watching the first half kind of by stats. My 11-year-old son had a basketball tournament, and then the second half they were between games, so I disappeared upstairs at the Pentagon to go turn it on in the old office. But that was such a unique way to end the game for the fact that you said they basically both called the same play, and part of me was wondering, like, I'd love to know the backstory in that. In other words, going to the second overtime, you have to go for 2. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you go, okay, what's our absolute best 2-point play? So it's entirely possible they sort of had that pre-scripted, not knowing Montana was going to call the same play. Yeah. But it was just so like, I don't know. Again, find the data, but how often does that happen? And then the fact that Montana shouldn't have scored on it, kind of got away with it, I think was wild. And then it was still the same play. The other thing was, so NDSU goes with the run only quarterback, and I couldn't help but think, is this the time they finally throw with him? Right? Because for one thing,
so obvious. Like,
for one thing, you don't need to, because he's a big, strong kid. They were running up the gut. He scored the long touchdown overtime, anyways. And then I thought, this is it. They've been literally setting this up all year, right? The kid, if I understand correctly, I don't think he's thrown once. Literally every time he's been there's been a run play.
Not this.
I'm like, okay, so now they literally built the whole season up to this play. He's finally going to throw and catch him off guard. So the fact that you didn't have your real quarterback in there, and he pitched it to another non-quarterback to throw it into the end zone was really surprising. Again, that said, phenomenal game, lived up to what I think everyone thought it was going to be. Could have gone either way, right? I mean, I think everyone can agree on that. kudos to NDSU. I did not necessarily think I thought what they were up against in terms of no bye on the road every week and then having to go play in that environment. I thought that was a big ask. And again, history says it was, and they could have won that game. They absolutely could have. And so kudos to them for the way that they righted the ship after a lot of people wouldn't have predicted they were going to get that far with some of the regular season stuff. And at the same time, they have to feel like they left one out there, which again, it will segue eventually to speaking of leaving a couple of games out in Montana, something this program knows a little bit about. And I can't wait to hear the behind the scenes motivations on that one, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, seriously,
it's the last monkey to get off her back. It's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all that's left. We've never beat Montana. Let's make it happen. And after the embarrassing comeback that we let one guy single-handedly beat us, which makes me wonder if Mathis had played that whole game, because obviously he got injured, would have it been a different game for the Bison? I feel like it would have been. We might have been seeing them back, but what happens in a game happens in a game, and that's what you got to deal with. So,
yeah, he's such a good red zone target too. That
he is.
To me, but it is what it is. Oh, here's Dallas chiming in for my third hockey game today. Happy you've replaced me with a more knowledgeable and better looking option.
It's hard to find a better looking guy, Dallas, but I think
it really is. It really is. Dallas very handsome. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I don't know who's more athletic, but I might give the edge to Dallas. You might be more of a runner though, Terry. He's a little bigger.
TBD. I'm still young. We'll find out. I haven't hit my peak yet.
There we go. Obviously, the big drops. Someone had mentioned that. Joe Stoffel, who doesn't drop passes. Hunter Brosio, who's been a consistent, pass catcher in his time in Fargo. Just two awful drops. I do feel bad for them. Those are just tough moments there for anyone. Montana not being ready for the fake punt in that situation and being super off balance and still feeling like they were going for the block. That was weird to me. In that situation, you almost have to be in like a punt safe return. Heck of a call by NDSU, gutsy. But Montana just had themselves in a bad position there, it seemed like. So I don't know.
It's probably one of those situations where they go, if we see this look, we're fake punting. Because our coaches have talked about that in the past in different makers and stuff. And they saw the look they wanted, and there they went. And by God, was it effective.
Yeah. And we will talk more about Montana coming up over the next few weeks. We're not going to dive into this matchup at all today. Plenty of time to do that. But interesting stuff. Someone mentioned the Tyler Roll. Did he know yet that they had made the decision, I think. I don't think Dom Izzo had tweeted that, an announcement was coming on Sunday or early Monday. So that tells me that a decision had been made. In my opinion, I think they would have told Roll before the game that if he got it or not, in my opinion. But who knows on the timing of all that. It's interesting. So, and that's the other big things for today, right? Holy smokes, just hit 200 people. Thanks, everyone, for being here. That's really cool. So just today, Polishek, right? Is that his name? The former offensive coordinator, went to Iowa for a bit, has been out in Wyoming for the last few years as their offensive coordinator, is coming back to NDSU to be the new head coach with Matt Entz, going out to USC to be the linebackers coach. I'm sure we've all heard about that. So, Terry, you're still plugged in up in Fargo a little bit. What's going on up there?
Yeah, no, not. I don't have any insight. My dad is a NDSU season ticket holder, and so he was texting me today. But with all due respect to my dad, he's, I don't know, 70-some years old. So he does the coffee talks with all his buddies. They don't actually know the inside information most of the time. But again, to totally speculate, I heard the chatter of Roll, and some people go, "Oh, we got to bring Vegan back," and so who knows? Interesting situation, interesting timing. I haven't seen anything. Did they? I would assume they'll announce further staff updates, whether people are coming, going, leaving, etc., sooner than later, like most programs do once the head coach is in place. But again, they're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like they're just not. They just have too much in place. Now they haven't been at the level that they set the last couple of years, in part because they were so good that somebody else took on the challenge, i.e. SDSU, to say we need to be that good in our own way, as Jimmy has said. So, again, they're again, they'll be motivated, right? They absolutely will. So interesting time though, and we'll see where that goes. And now I'm sure they'll look at it as he gets an extra couple weeks on the recruiting trail. So.
Yep. All right. Good segue. Terry, you're so good at this. Great segue here, bringing up recruiting. So this honestly, Terry, was one of the reasons I started Jackrabbit Illustrated. When you left, huge void in the recruiting world. And so that's what I've initially really focused on. Zim,
and you're really good at it.
Yeah. Zim loves focusing on the teams themselves, just doesn't have the passion for the recruiting. And so that's what I kind of started doing right away. So since we last talked, the Jacks have picked up 4 commitments from kids from Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, and another Minnesotan today. So the big one, obviously, today is Maxwell Woods, the Minnesota Football Player of the Year. Previously was an NDSU commit, scrubbed his social media of everything NDSU related earlier in the week. His family started following me, so that kind of put up my antennas. And so that was interesting. And then Dallas said that he had heard that Maxwell was telling folks at the Minnesota All-Star game a few weeks ago that he was going to be a Jackrabbit. So that's pretty cool right there. So we knew about that one. Lots of rumors there. Jack's picked up I'm assuming a preferred walk-on from Lofton, Ogrowski, the wide receiver from Coon Rapids. Nice player, 6'2", 180. So this a nice framed wide receiver again. Watching his highlights, his high school definitely looks like they want to play, ground and pound. So he didn't get a ton of opportunities, but he has on his Twitter again some cards that list out 40 times and stuff, and he's run a 4.55 at various camps. So that's decent speed. So, and the last 2 were kids that were on their official visits this weekend. Max Chapman, a defensive lineman from Creston, Iowa, 6'4", 270 already. He looks nasty, plays with a neck roll. So that'll be kind of fun to see from a defensive
like
tackle.
A future offensive lineman.
Right. And then offensive lineman, Thomas Martian, offensive lineman from Rapid City Stevens. So don't know much about him. He committed right before we got on the show, so I haven't had time to even really watch his huddle too much. So 4 big commits. This class is sitting at, I think, 28 kids now, something like that. Zimmer's story, obviously, about, recruiting kids that don't have offers and things like that. Phenomenal. If you haven't gone back and read that yet, make sure do yourself a favor and go do it. It's really good. But this class, man, this ranks right up there with that 2018 class in terms of stars and quality and that kind of stuff. We don't really count stars. I get it. Doesn't really matter at the FCS level, but there's a lot of talent in this class. The one thing with Maxwell committing that I was concerned about is the Jacks already had a 3-star running back committed for this class. And it looks like he is definitely on board with sharing the backfield between the 2 of them going forward and in the future, because he's liking tweets of the 2 of them together. He's reposting tweets with the 2 of them together. So don't want to read too much into all that, but it is exciting to kind of follow this recruitment stuff. Wednesday's the early signing period. So we're excited about that. So that's the recruitment stuff. This segment of kind of odds and ends is going to be presented by Jackrabbit Central. Jackrabbit Central has the locations that are open right now in downtown Brookings, as well as the campus location and the online store. They also have some wonderful shirts for Frisco. They have the discounted 2022 stuff there. I actually picked up a pennant and just haven't hung it up yet for the championship. So that's pretty cool. Everything for the 2023 championship.
2024 championship.
Last year's championships. Season. Okay, last year's championship stuff is all discounted 30%. There we go. And there's lots of good stuff. So check it out. Thank you, Jackrabbit.
I got a couple of those awesome coats, not the NASCAR-y ones, but the other
Oh,
championship
you
coats.
did? Cool.
Yeah, for
Good for you.
and they said they were going to be like $60-some, and I looked
Yeah.
and they're like $50, like
Yeah.
$48. So I
Yeah.
got one for my wife and one for me, and I ordered a 3X. It's closer to a medium, so I'm a bit sausagey in that one. I gotta have to lose a little bit of weight. Maybe that'll wait
Chad.
till the new year. It runs about just shy of a size smaller than what I am as a 3X. So yeah. Anyway,
All right. All right. So Terry, I do have a question, Terry, as long as we got you here. When you covered it, what made you so interested in covering recruiting? Why did you like the recruiting piece of it?
Good question. I think it was probably because it was one of those things you just said it without saying it, which is there's now this like digital footprint of what's going on, kids following an account. And so it was almost like it was out there, but you just had to put the dots together.
Yep.
So I think people are interested in it's, it's insider info. And again, if you care enough about the program to, be watching tonight or to be going to the games or buying the gear, odds are you want to know, well, who's next, right? I mean, how do we keep this going? And that probably started, again, not that long ago. Most of those kids were regional type kids. And so again, there you go. Oh, well, I said it tonight. Oh, the Roosevelt kids from my neighborhood, right? Yep. Oh, cool.
Yep.
Well, now your fan base is paying attention, more spread out across the country than they were before. So I think it matters to those people, right? Oh, I'm in, I don't know, Ohio.
Yeah.
And they got a kid coming in that, right? I remember when Cole Brody came in from Georgia, and it was like, oh, there's probably some alumni in Atlanta or whatever. So I think that's part of it. And I do think, though, you mentioned that 2018 class. I thought something Jimmy said a couple weeks ago. I don't remember if it was in Zimmer's article or a different one, where he had said more often than not, he said something to the effect of the kids who often get touted in their recruiting classes are not always necessarily the ones that end up being the stars. And I thought that was really interesting. And I would say if I were to go back on my time in the beat and trace some of those back, that was probably pretty accurate. Meaning with however a kid got played up, whether he won an award, like you mentioned, Mr. Football,
great All-American,
right. Whether it was the stars, whether it was, he's from a small school, but he had, 10,000 career rushing yards in high school. That's all kind of still kind of a little bit of guesstimate. And we're not all on the same level playing field. And who knows who develops better, who's homesick, or who gets hurt, who's maybe maximized their potential because they're already in a really strong weight program. Whereas a kid that's never lifted weights in a day in his life shows up and now, he's really going to accelerate that growth. So I think there's a lot of different variables that go into it. And that's part of why it's fun to cover or why it's fun to read about it. Because, this kid could be the top kid in the class today. And maybe he turns out to be that. And maybe there's some walk-on from a 9-man school that ends up, you look at, you got 2 kids from Viber Curly in your offensive backfield, right? I mean, that's wild. I was telling someone else watching the game with the other day, it was just, they were like, what did you say? I said, yeah, Viber Curly. Those 2 studs that are behind 2 of your other studs are from a town that small. So anyways, it's fun stuff, and kudos to you for keeping an eye on it because it never ends. That's the other part that's really challenging, especially for, let's say, Matt, where he's got all the other sports to kind of interact and stuff as well. It's constant. So you have to have that spreadsheet of who's doing what in order to keep tabs on it.
Yeah. Terry, quick, just folks have been asking. What are you doing nowadays? Everyone wants to know.
I mean,
just talking.
We kind of know. Right?
No. Thanks for asking. So I've been at the same. When I left the Argus, I went to Sanford Health to work in the marketing department. And give or take, I'm still doing the same thing. So, for instance, today, really a lot of my work revolves around our various sports elements. And so today I was at the Pentagon, the CBS Sports Network in town to do a live Syracuse-Oregon men's basketball game. So I was kind of coming off a high. It was phenomenal. I mean, again, a lot of folks probably here roughly in my age range. And, in my time, we had limited cable channels You had the Big East men's basketball, got a ton of coverage on ESPN. And I saw today in the crowd a Sherman Douglas jersey, a Derek Coleman jersey,
Cool.
obviously Carmelo Anthony, and then not to mention Oregon and all the sports. So to have two really national brands like that today here in Sioux Falls was really interesting and a total blast. And it was one of my favorite days. And then I guess we ended up by talking to you guys. So anyways, yeah, I'm with the Infrared, doing marketing stuff, mostly in the sports side, loving it. Love that we have such a great relationship with SDSU on a lot of fronts. And so I know people give me a hard time sometimes about it, but that hashtag Sanford Sports does mean something to us and means something to me. And we're really proud of all the relationships that we have across the region with a lot of the schools, and to hope that the work that we do on that orthopedic sports medicine front, on the fundraising side, whatever, helps elevate these programs to where they're at is genuinely really, really cool. So I'm not there every day on the beat, but I'm following along closely. Again, great to have men's basketball, women's basketball. We got SDSU wrestling coming into the Pentagon in a couple weeks. That's going to be really fun. And so it's like I get kind of doing what I did before, but without as many late nights because I don't have to write a story when I'm done. No, it's been really, really great. So again, though, so much respect and appreciation for all you guys and all the other fans that stop and say hi, that wish me well. Just really, really fond memories for myself personally and for my family too. A lot of you guys know we had a lot of health stuff with our kids around that time, and the love that people show to us, as it continues to mean a lot to us. All my kids have an affinity for the school just because of that. I think they can just feel that. So it's really, really special thing. So thanks for asking, but we're blessed and really happy to be where we're at.
Hey,
I just want to say you guys have been killing it out there at Sanford Sports Complex with things like what we're going for wrestling, the game that just happened, bringing in those national brands to play in SDSU or USD, even if it's that red team down south. It's good for the area. Yeah. It's good to get that level of competition in where maybe they wouldn't play us in a Frost Arena where, it's hard to catch a W against a team that wins so much. So, yeah, it's much appreciated. I don't catch all the basketball out there always, but I'm here for every wrestling match.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So can I ask you guys a question here? I don't want to jump on your show, but here's my honest take.
You're always welcome.
So I've watched the first two SDSU Frisco appearances on TV for a variety of reasons, right? Just hasn't worked out, or, again, I have 4 kids, so like we're busy doing all the things. So here's my challenge or my question for you guys. For those who haven't made a trip yet, we need like the how-to, right? So again, I know there's lots of different ways to get there. You can do like fan bus, you can fly, you can drive, you can be there a short period of time, long period of time. You can go, with people you can just show up and meet people. But if you guys put together like the Experience Insider's Guide now of maybe like choose your own adventure of like 3 different paths that'll get you there, that you'll have a good experience. I would love that, because I'm still toying with it. I don't know if I can swing it, but part of my hesitation is I got a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to make those decisions for me and for anyone else, that would be fantastic.
You got to get a ticket, right? Or standing room only ticket, which counts. But, all that's going to change Wednesday when we have our allotment come through. There's going to be some people that have tickets that have them available through SDSU. I think that's when you see the prices start coming down / kind of leveling off in price on the access site. You got to get down there so you can road trip with some friends. That's a good time. Been there, done that. You can fly. Usually saves you about 4 hours. What's your time worth? Been there, done that. That's what I'm doing again. And then Kettleland's throwing a bus out there, which is everything short of your ticket. So if you can get a ticket, then the Kettleland bus is a pretty good option that includes your stay. Pro tip to people that don't already have rooms, Plano's not that far away. The colonies where we're doing our deal, rooms are way cheaper there. It's easy to get around town. You're going to go somewhere and stay there for a while, get an Uber back, rent a car if you want to. This is true too, because you could show up And there's going to be tickets day of that are dirt cheap. People just couldn't get rid of because they were trying to. I mean, I know a guy that's sold his tickets for $400 a piece. He bought extra. It's a bit scummy since he's a NDSU fan, but anyway, I'm not going to get into it too much. But
the food, Terry, we talk about food all the time. Food's great. There's tons of options down there. I've actually done it a couple different ways. The spring season, my dad and I was remodeling my house that I'm in now, and I couldn't afford to go down for much time. So we flew down and came back on the same day. Would not recommend that. So don't do that one. Last year I drove. That sucked. I didn't like that. So this year I'm actually flying. I'm flying. But once you get there, Frisco is amazing. I absolutely love it. Really a great place. The stadium's awesome. And again, you are good at this segue stuff because we have some excellent.
Like we paid you to do this and we didn't even talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Did you know this was coming?
Yeah.
No.
We have some announcements to make, folks.
No,
so I'm glad so many of you are still here. So we are excited to, again, host the best tailgate party in Frisco on Sunday morning from 8 to 12:30. Last year, 4,000 to 5,000 of our closest Jackrabbit friends joined us for one of the best parties ever down there. Following a lot of the same setup. DJ will be there. We'll have food. We'll have drinks. We cannot guarantee that if you show up to this party, you will get food or drinks. But we're going to do the best we can this year.
And we already have 100 pounds of pulled pork donated.
100 pounds of pulled pork donated. So here's the thing. Here's the call to action, everyone. If you have a business that would like to be a sponsor, we're doing things a little bit different this year. We already have a number of sponsors on board. Let me just read through these sponsors really quick. We have Cubbies. We have Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. We have Boyce Law Firm. We have Hulsworth Farms. We have Blue Tide Car Wash, DeBoer Construction, Dustin and Becky Sheldon, Bloomin' Raider Farms, Josiah's Coffee House, Mensch Greenhouse, Creekside Meats, Jan Bussy Ford, Mike Schaefer's College Football Prospects, SLS Painting, and Bowen and Associates are all in as sponsors for this tailgate event. You will get to be on this podcast for that. You'll be on Facebook, the blog, and then we also will have a revolving video board with your business logo on it saying that you're helping sponsor this event. So it's a wonderful party. Thank you, Kim. Yep. So, yeah.
You know who's missing?
Who?
Someone that also likes the color blue. Has ties to the university.
Who are you talking about?
Sanford. Yeah,
come on, guys. Come on. Chad, we'll don't put it, Chad. Also, okay. Second big announcement, folks.
Talking.
Individually. Last year, a lot of you wanted to know how could you help? If you would like to help individually, here is the link to the Jackrabbit Illustrated Venmo. Shoot us some money. Again, this is a donation to help us run the event. We can't promise you that you'll get food or drink. Unfortunately, we can't. It's too big of a space. We're going to be in the same spot as last year, that large green lot. So that will be there. All right. Second big announcement. And this is something new. We are excited about this. We are doing a live show at the local on Saturday afternoon. So it'll be us. It'll be our closest friends. A lot of our reoccurring guests. We're going to be doing a live show at the local sometime early afternoon. Don't have that all hammered out yet. We're hoping to have Zim. We're hoping to potentially have someone from the athletic department. Maybe Tanner Castora, maybe Zach Borg, some of our friends, again, that are on our show with us. It'll be A-team. It'll be A-team, B-team, maybe the Rev. So, again, that's going to be a ton of fun, and that's going to be on Saturday in the early afternoon. So look forward to more info on that. And we are coordinating with the local. Brendan's been in communication with them about beer. we know we drank them dry last year.
A couple times.
And she is promising us this year. They are promising us that we're going to have plenty of drink there. So yeah, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun down there, Terry. So if you want to come with and be a guest on our show for that Saturday afternoon, here's your open invite. So
this has been very helpful though. So if I'm hearing you correctly, whether you planes, trains, automobiles, doesn't matter. Just take any of the options, get there, worry about the tickets when you're there.
Yep.
Have a great time. Good for you guys. I'll leave tonight smarter than I got here.
Hey, there we go. Terry, thank you for being here with us, man. This is like giving me like flashbacks of being like that 18-year-old kid that sat behind you in the student section and just asked you questions. And you were nice enough to turn around and sometimes tell us the answer and stuff. So Tuesday tidbits, your chats, all that, man. This has honestly been one of the coolest interviews or guests we've had on. So thank you. Thank
you guys for always thinking of me. Congrats on your success. Congrats on the season. Thanks to everybody for all the comments. And maybe we'll see you in Frisco. I got a lot to chew on after today.
Hey, that's awesome.
All
right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, hovered around 200 people for most of the show. So like, subscribe, and share. Man, that was fucking awesome. Terry, right there with us. Sorry, Mom.
Terry's awesome.
That was so cool. All right. Go big, go blue, go Jack.
Go Jack.